Hello, it's Kristen from the Neverending TBR in Kristen's Corner. This is part 2 of my June wrap-up. I finished Reborn yesterday. I read it with Abby Jean, and it was a me book. I had some really good points, but I really do not like Twilight. I just... Make them aliens. Had they been aliens, I would have been fine. Had they been snake people, I would have been fine. But the fact that you call them vampires, I just get very frustrated. But this was good. It didn't tie in anything until like the last 10 pages. It was lead up all the way until, I want to say, the last 50, but then the last 10 pages it tied everything up. The fight scenes were fantastic. What it's about is a vampire wakes up in a funeral home, and the woman taking care of his body to get him ready for a viewing or whatever, he wakes up and scares the crap out of her, and it's a fated mates kind of book. And it's just, there were like parts where I was like, this really? But she's very old-timey. She likes older movies. And he is trying to live his life as a vampire by the 3 laws of the vampires. And every time he would go through them, I would think either Fight Club, first rule of Fight Club, or what's the other one? Dodgeball. So I just, it was okay. Roxana was fantastic as a side character. And I love Tucker as well, but it just, the vampire world was more interesting instead of Ginny's world. Like, she was very isolated, very, just didn't know a lot kind of thing. So I don't know if I'll be continuing. I do know that Roxana's book is the next one, and I kind of want to know what the beef is between her and Elias, but I don't know if it's that much. And then I just finished Under the Surface. This was great. This is a YA. This girl with her, friends from her French class end up in the catacombs in Paris. And there's a lot of talk about finding yourself as well as finding a way out. And I don't want to go too much into it because it was a really quick read, and she did a great job at the claustrophobic aspect of the catacombs, like when they had to, go through something, or they found something that wasn't in on the map or anything like that. She did a great job describing that. And there's 2 points of view. There's the main character, Ruby, and then there is her love interest, Sean. And Sean is the one that doesn't go with her on this, adventure to check out the catacombs. So he's the one on the surface trying to figure out where they are and what happens. So, but it was really cool. I liked it a lot. And now I am going to finish Scattered Bones, or These Scattered Bones. I'm going to finish that today, but I'm doing good. So that's my check-in. All right, so I have gone through 4 books this week so far. So I tried this. no bueno. I got through 3 chapters, and the author was very info dumping. You know, I'm smarter than you, and you know, I gotta spell everything out so that you can see my genius going into this book. That's how it felt. So I'm putting this down. This was fantastic. I gave it a 4-star though. The only reason was, I forget what I wrote on Goodreads. I loved the action parts more than the spice. She did a fantastic job to make you feel like you were there and you could feel everything and smell everything. And there's one part where she falls in the mud, and it's that rainforest, you know, muck kind of stuff, like swamp mud, and it gets in her mouth because she's got her mouth open because she's falling. The things that happened to her husband, and you know it's coming, but just, oh my god. So it was really, really good. She bounced back and forth like you had to, because you start off why she's going on this quest, and then it shows what she's thinking about while she's on the quest, and then it goes back to show you why, you know. But I think my favorite scenes were the god of the hunt. She's got to go up on this icy mountain to get the part that she needs, and she gets blessed, and it's so cool, and you can like smell the pine trees and stuff. It was wild. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. But that was what I didn't like about it, was they're the only people that they've met. Like, he's a thief, and she is this supposed to be a vessel for a goddess, and so they don't really interact with people. So they're the first people, and they're bonded, and it's fated mates and everything. And I'm like, you've never even been outside. How are you getting through the quest? So, and I knew who the stranger was, but I loved his guiding force throughout the whole book. Anyway, so that was that one. Then I listened to the newest Finlay Donovan book. I love those books. I love Vero. I love the whole cast. I love Finlay. I really do. I identify with Finlay. I mean, I don't have a hot cop. Or how does her editor or her agent, hot cop. That's how she says it. Because she's from New York City, but she's from like that really, really like New York. Like, I'm from New York, but I don't talk like that. Yeah, that's how she says it. Anyway, it was just so, and Mrs. Haggerty, so in the last one, Mrs. Haggerty found a dead body in her backyard. Somebody was working on their yard in the neighborhood and flooded their yard, and it went into her yard, and this body popped up. So she needed a place to stay, so she chose Finlay's house. And meanwhile, while all this is going on, and Finlay's trying to figure out, because of course her husband is involved and has done something stupid, so she's trying to solve the case, and while all this is going on, her youngest is potty training, and he was they were doing the nudie boot camp training, and oh my gosh, it just, I totally get everything that she goes through. Yep, I loved it. I'm glad there's going to be a next one. I'm a little upset that what happens at the end happened, but you know, I can't wait until the next one comes out. And then this one, if you watched the live with B and I, we got our Harlequin subscription boxes, and this one, I think it's gonna make that high-pitched noise, so I might have to hold off on. Okay, so I was busting the crap out of this. So there's a Craigslist ad looking for a surrogate for a single guy who just wants to be a dad. He's this mountain man. He lives close to his family. His father has passed on, and he's looking to start the next part of his life. But that is not how we read it. And it's fantastic. There it goes. I'll be right back. Okay, I don't think it's going to get any louder. Anyway, so we were busting on this on the live because we had the pregnancy box, I think, because every book we were pulling out had some kind of pregnancy trope. Like, this one was in the box, and she is like Beyonce or Whitney Houston, and she gets knocked up. So it was a fun time. Anyway, this one, B started reading that night, and she wrote to me, and she's like, it's actually a really good book. You should try it. So I've been listening to it. Teddy Hamilton is the male narrator for it, and he does a great job. And it's just some of the stuff they get into, like the surrogate, the mom shows up. The guy's mom shows up because she wants to be there for the baby's first ultrasound to see the picture of the baby. And she's like, I don't care, you know, they're just gonna plop down and make me goopy and whatever. I don't care if this woman sees that. Well, it's a vaginal one, and oh my, I kegled so hard. I was like, oh my God. Because not only is this dude there, but now he got his mom. It's just a lot of that. And she is such a sweetheart. I love the character. I think her name's Trista. Yeah. Oh, I want to make sure it wasn't Krista. But she's so sweet. She wants to run a animal shelter. And the guy's a cinnamon roll. Like, he's hard on the outside, but ooey gooey on the inside, and I think that's why we like it so much. So I have 3 hours left of this one. So there we go. All right. Let's see how much I can read in the next couple days, because I have tonight, tomorrow, Sunday, and I think Monday. So 4 days. I know there's going to be reading sprints, so I'm excited. Okay, so I ended up giving 9-month contract a 5-star. It ended beautifully, as a lot of romances do. I loved the comedy and everything. So B has gone on and read the next one I think she read, and she loved that too. So I might keep going with the series. So after that, I read Silence for the Dead. I have found that I like historical fiction if it's past the 1900s. For whatever reason, I have no interest in Renaissance or that Bridgerton style. I'm fascinated, but I'm not fascinated. But anything like the First World War on, or like during the Industrial Revolution and that part of time, I'm very fascinated with. And this is about a woman in England that she's running away from her past, and she forges a application to be a nurse at a mental asylum in some part of the country, like in the, not country of England, but like the country. They're in the middle of nowhere. And she gets there, and the place can't keep nurses to save their lives at all, no pun intended. And the matron that runs the asylum, she kind of has a Nurse Ratched kind of vibe to her, but she ends up giving her a chance, and she's like, you know what, let's see how you do. And you know, you mess up once where you endanger one of these patients, you're gone. So she has to prove herself, and there is a patient that is high clearance that she develops a bond with, and you come to find out that, like a lot of the sanatoriums and different places that were used to house people after the war or after sicknesses and stuff like that, it was something else before it became the asylum. So this one was like, it was a house of like a very rich, predominant family, and there's ghosts, and she has to decide whether or not the delusions that the patients are going through, if it's something that they're trying to do to get one on her kind of thing, to figure out a way to either leave the asylum because they're there against their will, some of them, or, you know, she can't figure out if it's a delusion or they're actually seeing something. It's really well done. I really liked it a lot. And then it ties back in with the family that lived there, and there's this whole like background story of self-worth throughout the entire book, what she's going through, what other characters are going through, how they're, a lot of them are just trying to fake it until they make it kind of thing, but just because they're faking it doesn't mean that they're not worth what they're trying to do. So I really like this book. And then I read How to Survive a Slasher. I gave this 5 stars, I think. Or did I give this 4 stars and this 5 stars? I don't remember. I liked both. Hold on. I swear to God, I will get the pronouns right. I filmed this a few times. CJ is they, their pronouns. They're non-binary, and that's the main character. But they kept saying throughout the whole book that they didn't mind if you misgendered them. And even though they are a fictional character, I'm trying to not mess up. Anyway, as a slasher book, it follows a slasher storyline. I knew who was behind the mask. I was surprised by the double surprise of the character who is behind the mask. There was a cult aspect to part of the book that I didn't like. But the thing that I loved the most is CJ's family was an awesome family. Like, it was, they were relatable. Their morning ritual, like to get out of the house. But the mom, when her husband passed on, because her husband had been a survivor of the original camp that had a serial killer massacre a bunch of camp counselors, and kind of like Friday the 13th kind of thing. And then there was a copycat when the mom was having twins and the dad was unalived. Hold on. So anyway, the dad was unalived, and the mom, instead of becoming an addict or you know, passing on the kids to get them out of the state or whatever, she prepares them how to survive a slasher. And that's something that she does amazingly. Like, there's this scene where all the kids are in the park and they all take turns being the chaser, and it's kind of like hide and seek, and they have to, the one set of kids has to hide, and then the chaser has to find them, and if the chaser finds them, they're unalived, kind of thing. And I thought that was really cool. I like that CJ was not a loner. They had a friend group. They were well-rounded. They knew enough about themselves. They weren't learning about themselves, where a lot of slasher or YA books, or even just thriller books, the female or the main character is, or, no, the guys normally aren't, are they? Let me know in the comments. But male main characters kind of know themselves. They're not really lost. Anyway, going back to my train of thought. But in typical horror books, the main character is, help me out in the comments. My brain fried. It's gone. But they're loners. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I read Echoes in the beginning of the month, and that character was a loner. You know, they didn't have friends. They didn't have, their mom walked out on them. Their dad was abusive. That wasn't CJ at all. And I love that. So, and the ending, oh my gosh. How the masked person gets taken out, I was like, all right. So this reminded me of Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets Scream, but Jenna Ortega and this new crew of the Scream crew, not Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox, not that crew, this new one, where the characters are more aware of what's happening. And so I don't know, that was my thought. And then the last book that I got to finish reading today, even though today's July 1st, I got all the way until, like, I think I had an hour and a half left last night, and I was falling asleep, and I was afraid that it was going to climax and I was going to miss everything because I was falling asleep. So I listened to the rest today. The Sacrifice was a 2-star book for me all the way until the last half hour. Okay, so what am I? Let's try this again. And I'm sorry if you are used to better polished, edited videos. I am not that booktuber. And honestly, this is how I think normally. So if you haven't come from my main channel and you're just getting to know me, this is who I am. So Sacrifice, thought it was a 2-star until the last half hour. The history and mystery was super cool, because having just gone to the Philippines with my family and learned a little bit of the history and things like that of the country and the culture, and the fact that they have been colonized by the Spanish and the Chinese and the French and the Americans and, you know, all these different cultures are just blended in to the Philippines, and then they have their own native culture as well, and that was all sprinkled throughout the entire book. For me, it was, I kind of thought I knew where this island could have been, and no, you couldn't get me on the boat. No, I would not go. Because there are parts of the country that the islands are open for tourism or whatever, but they close down at night. They don't run electricity, nothing. It's just blacked out so that all of the energy and power can power the mainland and the other bigger islands. So it would be a no. Like, I wouldn't even go to this cave that they found. But the whole idea is that there's LA TV crew that is kind of like Tomb Raiders meets Ghost Hunters. Wants to find what happened to people that have gone and been sacrificed for this god. They know that there's an altar there. They know that Cortez supposedly is there somewhere, and that a chieftain sacrificed Cortez to protect the island. There's a whole bunch of lore that's thrown in. I love that part. What I hated was there was a love interest put in, and it was not explained why a love interest needed to be put into the book at all until that last half hour. Like, everything gets explained, and it's bananas. But leading up to it, I was like, this is unnecessary. Like, why is this kid who decided to get extra money for his family even thinking about having some kind of romantic relationship with one of these LA posh kids? Like, it didn't make any sense to me. And then what was the other thing? The villain, I didn't see that twist, but I didn't care either, because at that point, by the time I found out about that twist, I was getting frustrated because the book is called The Sacrifice, and there's supposed to be 8 sacrifices to make this god awaken, and whoever sacrifices, and it is, they get powers or something. It was never explained what happens to the person that is doing the sacrificing. It just said that the god would wake up. And the first one that gets like eaten by the island was freaking scary as heck. And the creatures and the explanations of like how the god was waking up and all that was creepy. But after that first one, there weren't a lot of, it didn't follow the sacrifices. And I'm like, these people are horrible. Like, why isn't the island eating them? Which shows how twisted I am. That I'm rooting for the island. But I was just like, come on, let's go. But there's this part at the end where they go down into this tunnel, which I would never go spelunking. I would never, no. And they're in this tunnel of this cave, and there's like vines everywhere. These creatures are coming down, and there's this one character that shows its true self, and I was like, I'm listening to the book, and I'm like looking around like, did anyone else hear that? Did you? I didn't see it coming. It blew my mind. I was like, shut up. And then the character that gets revealed, it lets the last sacrifice pass, and another thing happens. I was like, oh my god. And then how they end it was fantastic. So I'm glad I stuck with it because I was going to DNF it. I was like, oh, I kind of want to know what happens. And I know it's going to happen. I'm so sick of waiting. Like, I want the island to do what the island's supposed to do. So I'm glad I finally got to that book because I bought that last summer. But it was a good read. Like, I liked it. Like I said, you're gonna get frustrated if you're like I am, where you like horror movies to go a certain way, and if it's not, you're like, oh my god, let's go. Or your horror books as well. But I yell at the TV when I'm watching horror movies. So that was my month of reading. This is my beautiful June reads. I am so excited that I got through as many books as I wanted. I still have Bless Your Heart looking at me, but I have plans. I do have plans. But yeah, it was an awesome reading month. So thank you, Dana, and all the junior counselors from the Thrills and Chills Camp Nightmare. That was awesome. And yeah, I can't wait for next year. And I'm excited for my reading in July. So hope you're having a great day, great week. Let me know what your favorite book last month was, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.